Alright, man. I recently finished a game called Doom Eternal, and I had a pretty good time playing it. But I decided to go on the internet and search for bad Doom Eternal reviews, and I found one straight away called A Response to Doom Eternal Fanboys. Now, by just watching 3 minutes of this, I knew I had to make a response to this, so, let's just go ahead and jump into it, dude. Like always, please do not send hate to the person who made this video, because it is simply a disagreement.
So yeah, the first type of comment is obviously people complaining that I'm not good enough at the game to play Nightmare or something. Which, I mean, if I beat the main game and the DLCs on Nightmare, does that inherently mean I'm good enough? But whatever, I guess I was supposed to beat it all in a few tries. Like, the people who put like several hundred hours into this game.
Do you even understand how easy it is to criticize somebody else's footage?
You can criticize anything if you look hard enough for something to criticize. Now, what people are criticizing you for is you complaining that the game is quote-unquote too hard on Nightmare, so people are giving you tips on how to improve.
It's quintessential backseat gaming. People have done it since Let's Plays have existed on this website. If you posted your footage, I guarantee everyone could find something to complain about in the way that you played the game.
The reason people criticize you is because you're complaining about the difficulty of the game while playing on the highest possible difficulty. If you truly think the game is too hard, why don't you just turn it down to hard difficulty? Or maybe normal, or even easy if you're, I don't know, one of the, Dark Souls kids that comes in my comment section saying, "Oh my god, dude, it needs to have an easy mode."
Because unless you're literally a speedrunner, you're going to be making mistakes.
No shit.
Yes, but we are not complaining that the game is quote-unquote too difficult while playing on the highest difficulty. Therefore, nobody feels the need to criticize us.
And I purposely highlighted certain points where I had made mistakes to show how easily you can die with just one mistake.
I mean, it's almost like you're playing on the highest possible difficulty.
And it being on the highest difficulty is not an excuse.
This reminds me of when Back 4 Blood players were complaining that the highest difficulty on that game was too hard. Like, dude, this is pathetic, bro. Why are you playing on the highest possible difficulty if you think it's too hard? I don't understand this, dude. The highest difficulty is for people who mastered the game already, and they want to play through it again on the high difficulty, or for someone who wants an extreme challenge.
Which reminds me, if you didn't beat it on Nightmare, I don't care about your opinion on this issue.
Well, you forgot to specify not to use cheat codes, so I went ahead and beat the game on the Nightmare difficulty with cheat codes. Now my opinion matters.
Because some of you people who wrote comments or upvoted other comments telling me I'm bad haven't even beaten it on Nightmare yourself, so that really invalidates what you have to say.
Well, unfortunately for you, somebody in my live stream said they beat the game on the highest difficulty, the Ultra Nightmare or whatever it's called, and he said your opinion is stupid. And since that's a higher difficulty than the one you beat the game on, does that make your opinion invalid? Or does it only work when it favors you?
But you have to understand, and this is to go back to my point about pseudo speedrunning and playing a game for no reason, that there is no way to prove to anybody how good you are at Doom Eternal.
Okay, and we aren't here to have a competition. We play video games to have fun. So does that mean Animal Crossing is shit because, you know, you can't prove that you're good at it? I mean, come on, dude.
Because Doom Eternal is essentially a single-player fighting game.
No shit.
The whole game is just spent fighting bots, and nobody cares how good you are at fighting bots.
And I could say the same thing about a multiplayer game. Nobody gives a shit if you're good at a multiplayer game.
But since you're such an insular, echo chamber type of community, you attack anybody that criticizes your favorite game.
Telling someone to get good is not an attack.
But you don't represent the majority. And you don't have to look any further than the fact that this game hasn't won any Game of the Year awards except by maybe some no-name publication. It didn't even get the Gamer's Choice Game of the Year award at the Game Awards. It was beaten out by Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah, imagine actually taking Game Awards as something to go by.
And those are on one platform. So clearly people didn't like Doom Eternal that much if they didn't bother to show up to vote for their favorite game.
Maybe it's because those players were playing Doom Eternal, having fun, and not sitting on the internet arguing with a bunch of strangers over what video games they like to play.
The game just alienated the casual fan base of gamers completely. But no.
Okay, who cares, dude? Maybe the game was made for hardcore Doom fans. That doesn't make it a bad game.
So why would I do it? But also, imagine actually watching video guides on mechanics, because the game doesn't explain how they work.
Oh god, he's starting to sound like those Souls haters who complain because the game doesn't hold their hand at the beginning of the game.
That not incredibly degenerate for any of you who have some sort of sanity left? I mean, again, it's like you're training to be speedrunners. That's why you guys were so butthurt about the speedrunner comparison, because that's what you are. You're wasting your time to beat a game better, not because it's fun, but because of sunk cost fallacy. You've already wasted so much time getting better at a game that you convinced yourself it's fun to do the same exact thing over and over again, because it's not a multiplayer game, there's no unique experiences, all the spawns are the same, you're literally just doing the same thing over and over again to get better at the game for no reason.
Well, I mean, they wouldn't be playing it if they weren't having fun. And I mean, how are you gonna sit here and tell other people what they can or can't find fun?
So yes, comparing you to speedrunners is pretty fucking apt. And I guarantee if I watched all of your faces while you played the game, they would be as soulless and expressionless. You people are so dopamine fried that this is the only way that it can stimulate you with this incredibly fast, challenging experience.
So now the game is quote-unquote too fast for his brain to keep up with. I mean, come on, dude.
And it's like, it's essentially just the worst part of the Souls fan base is the Doom Eternal fan base. You guys are making people who like the game casually look bad. And you will lead to the destruction of your own favorite franchise because you're going to make it cater more and more to a smaller crowd each time. The more elitist and hardcore people. It's just so pointless. I mean, really, imagine playing a single-player fighting game.
I mean, if you don't like single-player games, that's fine, dude. Head on back to your Battle Royale multiplayer game with shitty servers located in a straw hut in the Mojave Desert, you know, while lagging around, in the attempt to level up the battle pass so you can get a sticker of a hamburger that is completely useless. I mean, you can't even eat it, dude. Like, if you're gonna put a hamburger on the screen, like, let me reach through the screen and fucking eat it.
It is only single player. And imagine wasting hours training to get better, fighting bots. That's what this is. Another thing that you fanboys fail to understand, and I want you to be honest with me, which of course you won't, but let's pretend for a moment you're going to be honest with me. How many times have you played Doom Eternal?
I've probably booted up the game about 100 times, so quite a decent bit.
If it's more than 2, then you've played the game significantly more than I have, and so of course you're better than me at the game. If the answer is only 2, and you've watched a bunch of YouTube guides by like Under the Mayo about how mechanics work, then again, perfect reason you're better than me. Why should I have done either of those things just to review DLC for a video game?
I mean, it's almost like your channel's based on reviewing video games. I don't know, dude.
Name one other video game in existence where you have to play the game multiple times to be good enough to play it on, you know, even the hardest difficulty.
Dark Souls games. I mean, dude, when you play a Dark Souls game, you gotta beat the game like 7 times to get the highest difficulty, and it's gonna take forever to learn all those boss patterns.
I can't even think of a game where you have to beat it multiple times just to have a chance to win effectively at the highest difficulty to appease try-hard fanboys. And I'm not going to take back anything I said about you people wasting your time, because you are.
I hate this stupid mindset of you're not allowed to just have fun. Like, every single minute of the day, you need to be grinding your dick off.
And obviously, you've all come to terms with that because you're having fun. I would just call it addiction.
Bro, you're addicted to complaining.
Because if you've ever watched any speedrun in your life, and I'm not even going to count GDQ, because all of them are degenerates, but if you just count normal speedrunners, look at their face while they're playing the game. Do they look like they're having fun?
No, because they are focusing on the game, because if they slip up, they'll have to do the entire thing over again. They're not gonna have their mouth wide open like an Allier thumbnail the entire game.
No, no, of course they're not, because they've played the game like 1,000 times. They know exactly what's going to happen. They've done the same thing over and over again just to beat us slightly faster because their dopamine receptors are fried, and so are yours, whether you admit it or not. And it's time to just fucking go cold turkey, dude. Stop playing Doom Eternal. Stop playing any shooters. Play like an action RPG, a hack and slash, a platformer, a fucking strategy game. Play literally anything else for a while, and then come back to shooters.
I'm starting to get the feeling that this guy just does not like shooter games.
One that annoyed me was one of my clips where I got stun locked to death by an archvile. Let me state that again. Stun locked to death. People managed to nitpick that and say I was walking up to an archvile with a shotgun rather than dashing, using grappling hook or any ranged weapon. Bad game design. Proceeds to walk face first into a mancubus. First of all, those are just failures of awareness on my part.
You could always be more aware and you wouldn't get into that situation. Also, it happened like once, who cares?
Normally, I wouldn't have done those things. You're taking 5-second clips out of context. I didn't know where that archvile was, and that's not my problem. My problem is I turn left, see an archvile, have about half a second at most to react before he shoots fire and instantly kills me.
Yeah, you're playing on a very high difficulty. Half a second is all you're probably going to get to react to things like that.
Like, my reaction speed is not the best in the world, I'll admit that. I'm not like a god gamer, and I'll never claim to be.
Well, play on a lower difficulty so that the timing does not require to be so precise.
That being said, I'm willing to beat my head against a wall to beat a particularly hard part, because normally, I find that fun. Doom Eternal, though, again, unless you are literally watching YouTube guides on mechanics and weapon combinations, the average player is not going to be able to beat this shit at all, no matter how hard he tries.
Yeah, because it is an optional mode put into the game for hardcore Doom players who are very good at the game.
And I just think that's bad design. There's no reason you should ever have to go to YouTube to watch how mechanics work for a single player game.
And you don't have to go to YouTube, you can learn it by playing the game.
If it's for a multiplayer game, that's fine, I get it, because people are going to do whatever it takes to be the best. But you have nothing to prove to anybody getting better at Doom Eternal. That's the thing I don't get. And yet it has such like a crazy, manic, circle jerk fan base.
I mean, the only thing you are proving in this video is that opinions can be wrong. I mean, who cares about proving that you're good at a game? It's almost like some people just want to play to have fun.
And I mean, I already knew that making this video, so I knew what the response was going to be. But it's just hilarious to see people scrounge at like the smallest little evidence that I'm bad at the game. And I'm not bad at the game, but I'm not as good as these people. I'll obviously admit that. But someone who's bad at the game literally could not beat it on Nightmare.
Then I hate to say this, because I know most people say this in like a trolling sense, but play on the lower difficulties until you can quote-unquote get good.
You people are so skewed in like your crazy radicalized fan base.
What's that? When you attack a game that a lot of people like, they might criticize you? No way.
You know, that's propped up by popular YouTubers, of course. But yeah, just generally, I don't even need to read some of these. I'll just put a few of them on screen that basically said the same thing. Again, people think I shouldn't play on Nightmare unless I'm at some certain undefined skill level.
I mean, yeah, the mode is there for masters of the game, which you clearly are not. If the mode is too hard for you, maybe try the second hardest difficulty. Play through the game, practice, and then go into the difficulty you are trying to beat.
At the game. But if I can beat it, even if it takes a few tries, doesn't that mean I'm good enough? It completely defeats the point if you can beat the game on the hardest difficulty in one try. Like, Ultra Nightmare should be something you do after, again, either watching YouTube guides, which is stupid, or a lot of practice of just beating your head against the wall in the game. And I would never try Ultra Nightmare. That is there for the true elite people.
Ultra Nightmare is the same thing as Nightmare, but when you die in a mission, you have to go back to the very beginning. That is for people who mastered Nightmare.
That I have no desire in becoming. There is no reason I should have to be at a certain skill level to talk about what I don't like about a game.
AKA, stop attacking me for saying that this mode is too hard and it took me forever to beat it. Which means Doom is bad.
That I'm talking about. And I didn't like certain things. And learning stupid mechanics that I think are exploits, like hot swapping all these different guns and different cooldown timers and throwing in frag grenades, ice grenades, blah 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 blah, which I do that stuff, I just don't do it well enough because my reflexes just aren't fast enough. I'm not good at like quick reacting.
Okay, then maybe your reaction speed is not fast enough yet for you to take on Nightmare mode. Try practicing a little bit and improving at the game. And if that's not your sort of thing, that's completely fine. You can just move on to another game after you beat it on the normal or hard difficulty.
To a situation as much as some of these people. Because the game's just too fast. The game's too fucking fast for me. If you wanted to boil down a lot of my complaints to Doom Eternal, I literally just think it's too fast.
Too fast for you. The rest of us are completely okay with the speed of Doom Eternal.
And so yeah, the people who are hardcore into as these super mega fast arena shooters like are desensitized to any normal game at this point. So they're basically a drug addict, right? It's like moving from weed to, I don't know, coffee and pre-workout to or something. I don't know. It's not the best analogy. The point is they're so desensitized to like the 2016 experience that they can't see how anybody could possibly like it better than Eternal. For everybody else who just played the game like once or twice and then Eternal comes out and then you're like, wow, that they went a little bit too far in a few places.
I may have gone too far in a few places.
And I really don't need to talk about it in detail. I know some people want to see it, but yeah, it's just not worth the time. This is going to be the last time I talk about Eternal probably.
I mean, if the game is too fast for your liking, that's a completely valid reason not to like the game. But don't label the game as bad because, you don't like the speed.
And one last thing I want to talk about, and this is a type of comment I've gotten a few times, is essentially, if you keep insulting your audience, you'll never make it on this website. First of all, most of the time I'm not insulting my audience. I'm insulting people who basically, intentionally or not, usually not intentionally, it's the YouTube algorithm recommending my videos to the wrong type of people. My videos get brigaded by a bunch of people who've never seen my content before, don't like my criticism, and then immediately insult me. So, forgive me if I preemptively counter what I correctly predict are what are exactly going to be your comments. I knew half of you would say just get good.
Or it could just be that people didn't agree with you on this. It doesn't mean they hate you as a person. It doesn't mean, they're unsubscribing from your channel and disliking your videos and stuff. It just means they disagreed with this one.
I fucking knew it because you're so predictable. Because that's the first place that fanboys of these type of games go for. And how do I know that? Oh, I don't know. Only because I've been the Souls fan base for 10 fucking years. Yeah, you get used to people saying get good.
I mean, most of the time people say get good, they're honestly trolling.
And just because a game is hard does not make it good. And just because a game is fast does not make it good. Just because a game has complex mechanics does not make it good. And these are things that are very hard for people to swallow.
Okay, but these three things that you just listed do not make the game inherently bad either.
I'm going to call it like it is, whether you think it's right or not.
I mean, people did not think you were right.
I'm going to give my opinion, and that's the end of it. Alright, and that's about it. Honestly, I don't even care anymore which game is better. It doesn't matter to me.
It didn't matter so much that you decided to make an entire 20-minute video on the subject.